This is about due process as far as I'm concerned, so I'm hoping I can use the powers that I have been given, which in my view are not insubstantial, in order to bring that element to this 1267 regime. In particular, I hope to be able to use the information gathering and the dialogue process in order to draw out what the case is against the individual or entity, and then to use my reporting mechanism in order to present the petitioner's answer to that case so that the petitioner can be heard by the decision maker, and to have an independent third-party review of the underlying information to the greatest extent I can. I think that would be a very significant advance in terms of the 1267 regime. Well, as I said at the beginning of my remarks today, I mean, I'm because of the role I play, which is a neutral, independent, impartial one, I'm not in a position to defend the council or critique the council's regime, because I think that's not helpful for my position. But I do believe, as I try to highlight, that the context is what brings about this conflict here. The Security Council is a very unique body that's been empowered by the community of nations for a very specific purpose of maintaining peace and security. They're not a court, they're not a tribunal, they're not a domestic entity, they're not even a domestic executive entity. They are the Security Council. And so they're used to a process that they've been doing for many years. They're used to using their sanctions in a certain way. They're used to the way in which they proceed not being the same kinds of processes that we're used to in a domestic criminal law context at all. So you have that, and then you have measures, though, which have such a dramatic effect on the receiving end in terms of individuals and entities and the countries who have to implement, that there is an expectation that, of course, there would be these procedures built in already, and there aren't. And those two perspectives, whether you agree, whichever side you fall on, you have to understand that they're there. And that's the gap we have to try and bridge. And I think my role is to try and bring a bit more, as was said, of the humanity side to the Security Council, and at the same time to the individuals and entities a bit more about what the Security Council is about and what their aim is. In terms of explaining the listing process, today, especially because the whole process has advanced, there is a much more sophisticated procedure by way of listing individuals. I mean, it's well known that states, any state can propose individuals for listing, but now there's material that has to be provided, a narrative summary that has to be prepared, reasons that have to be given for the listing, that in a much more transparent process. And everyone who's on the 1267 list, unlike some domestic lists are known. It's on the website, so you can find out if an individual is listed or not. So that it is a procedure where states put that forward, and then the committee makes a determination whether or not to list. So that process has become, I think, much better. They did not give the Ombudsperson a role in listing. There's obviously suggestions that the Ombudsperson could have a role in listing, just as I have a role in delisting, but for the moment that hasn't been accorded to me. It's been one of my major challenges too. It's trying to reach that audience who may not be necessarily savvy or aware of the developments in New York. And so one of my tasks that I've been carrying out is I've been meeting with governments that have a lot of nationals on the list, natural sort of countries that are implicated in the regime, trying to ask them to disseminate information to all of the UN bodies, the Counterterrorism Executive Directorate, who goes out and works with countries on implementation of the 1373, the separate domestic regimes. I ask them to talk about my office. The monitoring team of 1267, again, when they go out, I ask them to do so. So I've been trying to reach these individuals and encourage them to come to me. Same with the website. The idea was to make it, as simple as I can so that people will come to me. I've written letters to those on the list who have addressed addresses to say that I'm here. And the whole idea being, I need, if we're going to test the process, if we're going to try and add this due process, it's about reaching those individuals and entities and making them aware now of their avenue of recourse. And that's all part of, let's humanize this and let's make sure that the mechanism, which is I think an important tool of the Security Council, is properly targeting. I've had some communications that have come in, for example, by email. One of my first cases doesn't involve a lawyer, so it's an individual who's come to me directly. So I think it's having some success, and I hope it's going to be having more success as we go along. It's early days still. Even a few months in international law terms is quite short.